Welcome to the Creators Podcast. I'm Jonathan Hamill, a doctor and writer based in Paris. Today, my guest is Kayleigh Grant. Kayleigh is a shark diver. After growing up in Philadelphia, Kayleigh moved to Hawaii to fully live her passion for the ocean. Alongside her husband, Cam Grant, she co-founded Kaimana Ocean Safari, where she accompanies guests in epic ocean safaris and where people get to interact with and learn about the many wonders of the ocean. In 2020, Kayleigh started sharing her special interest in sharks through videos on social media, gaining millions of followers. In particular, videos of her redirecting sharks typically get millions of views, and we will definitely talk about that. Kayleigh is a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain, a PADI certified dive master, an F2 certified freediver, and she's also an emergency first responder instructor, an American Red Cross CPR first aid responder, and a U.S. whale entanglement first responder for the Pacific Islands region. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Ecotourism with the Marine Options Program and completed a course with Cornell University and the University of Queensland entitled Sharks, Global Biodiversity, Biology and Conservation Certification. You can find her on Instagram at mermaid.kayleigh and on TikTok at mermaid.kayleigh. Kayleigh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Aloha, everybody.
So you grew up in Philadelphia, so far from the Pacific Ocean. What was your childhood like, and was the ocean already a big part of it, even though you were living far from it?
Yeah, I had a really great upbringing, pretty normal sort of upbringing. Um, where I lived outside of Philadelphia. It was nice because we were about an hour from the beach. We were also about an hour from the mountains and kind of an hour-ish outside of the city. So we had a lot of like different options. And so being that close to the shore, I grew up going to the Jersey Shore every single summer. My parents had like a little condo down there. So I definitely loved being by the ocean. I mean, who doesn't? And my dad would also take me on whale watches up in Massachusetts. So that was where I remember my first whale watch that he took me on. We had this like crazy whale that was like rolling next to the boat and like just playing with the boat. Like rolling under it, rubbing against it. And it was like the craziest whale experience that still to this day, like I've never really had a whale do that with a
Yeah,
boat
it's pretty unusual.
since.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if I knew exactly like how special that was at that time, but of course, it made me like infatuated with the ocean and all of its beings. I remember when I was young, I grew up, watching Free Willy and The Little Mermaid like on repeat. So I was just, yeah, kind of obsessed. And then as I got a little bit older, I wasn't exactly sure, what I was going to do with life. The world sort of takes over and it's like get a job and like go to college and all of these things. So I kind of put my love for the ocean, on the back burner, but knew that I wanted to get out of my hometown. So I went to university for ecotourism, just knowing that, tourism, it can take you anywhere, especially beautiful locations around the world. And through all of that, I found my way to Hawaii. And once I was in Hawaii, you're fully surrounded by the ocean on a little rock. And so there was no denying that, my passion came flooding back. And I started with
Mhm.
scuba diving, teaching people scuba, and just working my way up through all of the qualifications that you named, and eventually starting my own company in 2020 here in Kona. So it's been an awesome journey.
Yeah, so let's go back a little bit because you summarized a lot of it, but was wondering if you were a kind of an adrenaline junkie growing up, because people will talk about the videos, of course, but when you see that, it's pretty amazing. Was there already that look for the adrenaline?
Oh yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head with that one. And that is a huge part of my story. I, to this day, still like to jump off of cliffs And I also really enjoyed scuba diving, as well as skydiving. I was starting to get my AFP, which is like skydiving on your own. So yeah, definitely love adrenaline, even more less adrenaline things like running marathons and stuff, but just ways to like really push myself and step out of my comfort zone has always been a theme throughout my life.
Yeah, and you mentioned Free Willy and Little Mermaid, but I was wondering if you remember watching Jaws and, films with sharks that are the bad guys.
Yeah, I do. I don't remember Jaws having like a crazy negative effect on me. I remember when I was young, I went through like the Disney ride of Jaws, and like the fake shark comes out of the water. And I think it like gave me a jump, but I don't remember it feeling too realistic to me when I was young. But I really liked all the movies. I'm still kind of a fan of the movies because I see them as like a movie, not as reality. So it's fun. I like the shark movies.
Yeah, there are plenty of those. If you just type in shark in any Netflix or whatever, you see, killer shark and everything. So it's
Yeah.
still out there. So once you decide to move to Hawaii, can you tell us a little bit what you learned during your Bachelor of Science and what if what you learned during those years still how it ties into what you do today?
Yeah, I really love that because I personally believe travel is such an important part. Maybe it's not for everyone, but it's an important part of my life. And I know that people that value travel are, it has a profound impact on people. And I think it's important for us to like see how other cultures are, how other places are around the world, and like yeah, it's really cool to get to experience things beyond what you may have grown up with. So, and I think it's important to just relate to one another and experience these cultures. It's just awesome. So that's why I really wanted to go into tourism. And I think it has a lot of value, but at the same time, it's important that when we are traveling or experiencing tour operators, tourism in different facets, it's important to think of nature as well and the environment, even the culture where you're at, and like, try to keep the local people and environment in mind while you're traveling. So,
Yeah, because now I guess you're getting a lot of people from all around the world on your tours, so I'm sure you can now see that in action.
yeah, so travel is important, but just respecting like the local communities and environment is just super important. So that's why I got into ecotourism, was just little ways to, things that we're starting to do now. Back when I was in college, it was really the beginning of all that. Little things like, where you use paper straws, right? Or like paper bags, or in hotels, how they're trying to save energy. So if you want your stuff changed, you like leave the note on the door, and just different things like that, where I was kind of in the early stages of those conversations. And I'm glad it's like continuing to progress so that we can be respectful and make less of an impact while we are traveling. And I think traveling is important. So that, yeah, has just been a passion of mine. And I really enjoy getting to take people on my tours where, we're also picking up trash while we're out there and kind of talking about the plastic pollution. We're talking about issues that are locally going on here in Hawaii, or, with marine life worldwide, and things that like sharks face. And yeah, just getting to show people that firsthand, I think can be really life changing. And then they want to go back to their normal lives, and they may make some changes, whether it's how much single use plastic they're using, or maybe even their diet if they feel really compelled. But, with these tours, people can have really life changing experiences.
For sure. So yeah, you pick up the trash, you give the guests little nets to fish out whatever they can find from the ocean. So everybody knows on some level that, a plastic bottle pollutes the ocean for hundreds of years. What are some of the most surprising ways people pollute the ocean, sometimes without even knowing they are polluting?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think on like a personal person by person basis, we can help by using less single-use plastic, like I said, with um, not using plastic water bottles, plastic bags, saying no to the straw at the restaurant, these little things that, you might just use one time and throw away. If you're going to use it once and throw it away, see how you can, maybe change that. But obviously, humans affecting the ocean is on a way bigger scale as a whole. So I've seen, materials float in from cargo ships that fell over in Alaska, and then we're getting the remnants of that over here in Hawaii. Obviously, there's something like 50 to 100,000 boats in the ocean at any given time. A lot of that is shipping,
Wow.
cargo. Yeah, it's pretty insane. Look it up. But a lot of that is not, your average fisherman going out with one little line, this and that. A lot of it is like cargo and, huge commercial seafood operations, which are really, really big. Another way that, humans may not know that they're really affecting the ocean on that scale is if you can support your local small fishermen. Of course, if you can give up seafood, that's great too. But those huge commercial fishing operations where we're getting
Yeah, we'll definitely talk
most.
about that for all the bycatch and everything, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a whole other issue. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of surprising ways that you wouldn't even maybe know if you're just at home, you go to the grocery store, you buy this fish, you might not be thinking of where that really originated from. So, there's a lot of interesting ways. And also with having all those boats in the ocean, there can be way it affects the whales, entanglement, they're avoiding boats, hearing boats, it's affecting their communication. So yeah, just as humans, we're kind of like ants. We're like everywhere and we're definitely in the ocean a lot.
So now I wanted to talk about the whale entanglement. So now is a good time. So I was very surprised when I read that. Can you explain a little bit what is so what is the title exactly? Your U.S. whale entanglement first responder. So can you develop a little bit what that entails?
Yeah, there's actually different levels. I am level 2. Um, it goes up to level 4 or 5, I believe, and then you're, instructing others. And it is something I want to continue to pursue. But level 1, everyone should go out and do it. It's a course online. So you can, if you live in a coastal community, I know that's how it is, at least here in Hawaii, hopefully other places, but there's a course where you could take level 1 so that if you see a whale that's entangled, you can you know what to record, you know who to report it to. It's just giving that general information. And then I was lucky enough to take level 2 just recently, a few months ago in October, and we were able to do hands-on practicing about what we will do if we get a call that there's an entangled whale here off of Kona. So yeah, it was a lot more physically demanding, serious, dangerous, than I would have maybe expected, because you have to think trying to disentangle a 40, 50-ton animal is not going to be the easiest thing, and it can be really dangerous, and people have died doing this.
Really?
So
How do you train for it? Like for level two, do you go in the water and try to disentangle some? I mean, obviously not a whale, but something. How does that work?
yeah, yeah, exactly. But everything's actually done from boats. So there's no in water anything, but you
Oh,
basically have
okay.
a vest, you have a helmet, you have tools. One of them, for example, is like a long rod with a knife on it. And so one boat would actually pull a fake wooden whale tail that we had wrapped up in all different ropes, and then we're using the tool to disentangle it. But it's very extensive. You have to attach control lines, and you have to actually hold on and pull yourself closer to the whale, and there's different methods of disentangling it. So it was really cool to get to experience. I don't want an entangled whale to like be here or anything. Just in general, I don't want them to be entangled. But if one comes through Kona, I'm glad that I can help assist. So
Yeah, amazing. So I wanted to get back to the university part. So this course with Cornell and Queensland University in Australia. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And were you already involved with sharks when you took that course? That especially course on sharks.
Yeah, it was all online. It was actually a free course. So, if you are interested in any topic, explore it, and take the time. There's a lot of resources out there and a lot of different papers you can read, free courses you can take. So, I was already working with sharks as a shark diver where I would guide people and take them on dives with sharks, teach them about sharks. And I just wanted to further expand my education on this. So, because I went to school for ecotourism, not marine biology. So I did a little bit of follow up education. And that was an awesome free course where you just went a little bit in depth more about the biology of sharks, conservation, different things like that. So it was really cool. Yeah. And then the marine option program, I know you mentioned, I also got to do with which was a bit more extensive than the 5 week like online course I think this was, but this was a full semester or two. Gosh, this is kind of years ago now, but yeah, it was really cool and just kind of taking a few different marine biology classes to kind of get an overview. I know I took a course on corals, I took oceanography, and then I ended up doing my final project on shark photo identification, which was really cool because I was working with the sharks. So I was able to go and take photos of their dorsals and use these two lasers attached to like a little thing my husband built for me. And so we could get measurements of the animals. We like mounted a GoPro. So yeah, we could kind of measure them while we're in the water of them with them, take photos so we can get to know the different individuals with their scars and markings on their body. So
Hmm.
yeah,
So,
it's pretty cool. I just always encourage someone that if you have an interest, it's never too late. I was still fairly young when I was doing all this, but I had already been done with school, but it never hurts to go back and get a little bit more education.
oh yes, I agree. There's everything you need online these days.
Yeah.
Um, so at that time, you were already a shark diver. Can you bring us back to your first experience, your first dive with a shark? Was that when you were already working for One Ocean Diving? Or was that prior to that?
That was before that, yeah. But I was out in Hawaii and getting into the water with the sharks. Well, to backtrack a little bit, a really funny like story is on my first scuba dive when I was going through my different courses, and I think I was going through my open water, so like my first scuba course. We were just kind of kicking around, hanging out. It was fun, blowing bubbles, and I actually found a shark tooth. And so I showed my guide underwater and he was like, "Oh, it's so cool. Like it's not that common to just come across a shark tooth underwater, but I think it was definitely like an omen. So that was a fun little, sign from the universe." Anyway, then later, so we would see kind of like white tip reef sharks and stuff cruising around. But my first time kind of with like larger sharks in the open ocean, sandbar and Galapagos sharks also in Hawaii off the North Shore. And yeah, when I just like slid in, I just thought, wow, they're so beautiful, like because in Hawaii we can get that really clear royal blue color water, and then you just see their, grayish brown bodies just like gracefully moving through and just like cutting through the contrast of the colors and the way that they move. And it doesn't feel scary in there. It's like really peaceful. They're just like anything else in the ocean, just doing their own thing. And they don't look at us as anything super interesting other than the other animal that entered the water. So, yeah,
Not
I
not
think,
as food anyway.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And so, but was that planned? Did you know you were going to see sharks? That was a yeah. It was
Yeah,
not a big surprise.
that was my first, deep open ocean shark dive. And I was like, wow, I have to like figure out how to do this every day.
So, can you tell us a bit about the team of divers at One Ocean and what you learned through your work, and maybe we can say apprenticeship with Ocean Ramsey, who's also a very famous shark diver.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for my time there. I learned a lot about, how to interact with the sharks, what to look for with their behavior, how to keep other people safe in the water with sharks, and also stay humble, know when is a great time to get out of the water, because they are top predators, apex wild animals. Um, I think the sharks are the best teachers of all, to be honest. Every single time I get in the water with the sharks, I'm still learning something. And I hope I never stop looking at it that way as, a continuous learning experience. I think it's important to always stay humble and not think that you have like learned it all, mastered it all, that you know it all.
Yeah,
It's like
that's
always
probably
say,
the time to stop if that happens.
yeah. And that's when I have seen, people have close calls and things like kind of when you're getting a little too confident, a little too cocky. It's like we're in their home, we're in their domain. So, yeah, but it was a really great experience because I was able to every single day for like 5 hours a day. It's like that's what you're doing. You're seeing the animals. So you really start to pick up on all those little like nuances of their behavior. Like, oh, wow, you're recognizing the individuals and that one's doing that. And then who's more dominant here. And yeah, that all just comes with the time in the water and doing that for so long every single day. So it was a really great experience. Yeah. And then, just as life, it becomes time to move on and spread your wings. And yeah, I was really grateful that, Cam and he was working with dolphins on the west side, and I was working with sharks on the north shore. And we kind of got to combine our forces and bring something unique to Kona.
And so when you go diving every day, do you usually go to the same spots? Are sharks still always hanging around the same neighborhoods, or how does that work? Do you know where they are?
So typically, no two dives are almost ever the same in the ocean. But when I was working on the North Shore, we would always go to very similar spots. There's sort of a shark aggregation out there. They're very common to see in these same areas. My work here in Kona is like a little bit more difficult. That's why but more like variety and kind of interesting and dynamic. Um, that's why we call it a safari, because we don't know what we're going to see and we don't know where the animals are. We're going out and looking and seeing what we can find. And we work with a more variety of wildlife out here versus in North Shore, where we would go to the same spots and often see a lot of the same particular individuals. But yeah, here in Kona, it's more of a challenge, but I like that because no 2 days are truly the same. We have some spots that are like hot spots for those wildlife. Like we know where mantas come around often, and we will see a lot of the same ones. And then when we're offshore, we're literally just driving around in the deep blue. It's like a blue desert sometimes. You're really just driving and scanning the horizon, looking for anything that looks a little different, whether that's a dorsal fin or just a splash. Or, yeah, we see that trash floating and we'll go pick it up. So it's a bit more challenging, but we really enjoy it. The
Right.
search is part of the fun, as I always say.
Yeah. So in 2022, one of your videos went, as they say, viral. In it, you demonstrate what to do to avoid getting bitten or chased by a shark. We were talking about shark behaviors, and one of the things you say is try to maintain eye contact, which I was having trouble visualizing how you maintain eye contact with a shark. It was a moving animal. Is it basically, trying to be the most predator-like and, not obviously not splashing away?
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how well the eye contact thing works. Like most people would really be surprised to learn that. But if it's because it's interesting, if you have your back turned, like they will come a lot closer than if you're looking at them. They're smarter than we give them credit for. So they're seeing our body language. They see that we're facing them, that we have awareness. They know where the front of our body is versus the back. They
Mm,
can see our eyes. So there is a next level of intelligence there than we really realize. But it is important to make eye contact with the shark. Yep, as it's moving around, and then you're glancing also every few seconds over your shoulder and down around, because we always like to say it's not about the shark that you see, it's about the shark that you don't see, because that's the shark that's
that's
probably
reassuring.
closer. Yeah. But if you're looking around and you have that awareness, like you'd be surprised that makes so much of the difference.
That's funny because I had the opportunity to be in the water with sharks, both snorkeling and diving with bottles and everything. And I was like, I'll try not to look at them. Maybe they won't notice that I'm there. I mean, obviously this was scuba diving with the groups. So basically nothing was gonna happen. Still, it was like I won't move, so maybe they won't look at me. So
That's
okay,
funny.
that's counterintuitive to actually, make your presence felt.
Yes, they definitely know that you're there. They're pretty smart, especially if you have like scuba diving gear, all the bubbles, it's like you stick out like a sore thumb there.
For sure, yeah. So what do we know actually about sharks' eyesight? Is it relatively very good compared to other animals?
It's not a lot of people think that I've heard sharks are blind, all of these, things that people on Instagram and TikTok are writing, but their eyesight is actually pretty good. The thing is they don't see colors like we can see such a spectrum as far as we know. It's more like high contrast they're really taking notice of. So if you have something that's really bright, they're going to see that there's a really bright thing versus a darker colored, water. It's just going to attract a little bit more attention. So I
Hmm.
always say, it's a toss up because when you are in the water, a lot of people want to wear bright stuff so that you're able to be found, be seen. If you got separated from your group, there is obviously a lot of really beneficial stuff with wearing bright colors like that. But if you're going like specifically shark diving, I would say, darker tones are good. I've really noticed over my years, like people that bring the bright white fins on the boat or bright yellow, the sharks come up and they get a lot more attention. So,
Interesting. Yeah, just the contrast. They want to check it out.
yeah.
Yeah, and you've described sharks as being kind of shy animals. Can you explain a little bit what you were telling about shark behavior, maybe being modified when his behavior is becoming a bit odd, a bit aggressive? What are some of the signs that you see, or is it just you feel it because you've spent so much time in the water now?
Yeah, sharks are 90% of the time actually really shy, and we mainly share a lot of our videos that are the more exciting moments because that's what people want to see, all the times that we're sitting there like just hanging out hoping that they get closer and they're keeping their distance because they're really unsure about us. We don't share that as much, but that's the reality of the situation, and it can take sharks a long time to work up their courage to come closer and check you out too. So those are all really interesting little tidbits that you really just have to get in the water with sharks to see.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
all about the 20-second video for sure.
yeah, exactly. Um, but of course, they are wild animals and they're apex predators, and also a lot of things in their environment can change their behavior. Um, so there are times where they will change behavior quickly. Sometimes it happens over time. Sometimes it's in a second, in a heartbeat. Um, but things that you can look out for are, a lot of times, and this might be hard to notice for somebody that's a beginner, but you'll actually start to notice that they'll sort of arch their back, and their pectoral fins versus being straight out will kind of come down like that. That's just sort of posturing. I know a lot of different animals do that. Like cats are an example. They'll do that when they
Right.
feel
Yeah.
threatened. Typically, a way that animals will try to look more intimidating, maybe larger, and they're just letting us know physically with their bodies that they are being territorial or asserting their dominance. They can also, come in closer and back off and come in closer and back off. And that's sort of a way that they're intimidating you as well, right? Kind of juking you out. And yeah, so there's those little things that you just start to pick up on. And then it's like, okay, let's maintain eye contact. Let's put our fins towards them. So there's something between us and them. Maybe slowly back away. But yeah, you never know what could stimulate a change in behavior. It might be something that you're not even aware of. Somebody could be splashing over here, or there could be another shark feeding over there, or spear fishermen entered the water and there's a scent. And so yeah, there's a few different reasons why that could change. That's why it's important to go with a professional that can
For
read
sure.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
Do people that go without professionals like willingly go dive with sharks by on their own? Is that something you've seen?
Yeah, I think that does happen. For the most part, it's not that easy to just be in the water and like know where the sharks are and find them and stuff. It's uh has to be, something that's sort of like well known. So I would say like on the North Shore, it's really easy for people that maybe don't have as much of experience, haven't spent that much time in the water with them. It's easy for them to kind of find the sharks in these areas that are really like popularized by social media and stuff like that, and or they've been out on the tours enough where they know where to go then.
Right.
um, but and like, you don't always have to be a shark diver to know what to do when it comes with sharks. I've seen so many like spear fishermen spend so much time in the water and they really know what to do when there are sharks around. So you can like I said, time in the water and spending time with the sharks, they're the best teachers. But I would definitely recommend like doing many shark dives with professionals before, or studying
Yeah,
them, working at a shark diving company before you feel like you should go in the water.
that sounds like good advice. So I want to come back to those videos of you. I think you call it redirecting sharks. So what's happening exactly, and what was the first time that you did that? Was that something that you'd been shown? Um, and what are the sharks doing actually at that moment? Are they just curious and coming to check you out? What's happening there?
Yeah, typically, like I said, it takes a shark a long time to work up to that. And shark diving has been a of interest to divers for a really, really long time. So this is something that a lot of people have been doing for their safety when diving with sharks for decades and decades. But it doesn't always mean that, sometimes it can mean that a shark is being aggressive if they're coming up that close to you, of course. But it doesn't always mean that. Sometimes it's just curiosity, what's going on. They will go up to each other like that at times as well. Doesn't mean that they're coming up to bite you. They could just maybe bump into you, but better to probably move the mouth, away from your
Yeah.
body. I also would not recommend using your hands with majority of species actually. So a lot of the smaller species, Galapagos, sandbar, bull sharks, oceanic whitetips, blue sharks, mako sharks, pretty much any species besides a tiger, you should have no problem using your camera to put in between you and the animal, or the fins on your feet. Um, with the tigers, they're pretty like big and strong. So a lot of times they'll just barrel right through if you try to stick your fin out. Just be prepared that they may go right through it. But I would say, for a beginner, if you're in the water and a shark is approaching you and you don't know what to do, try to put something between you and it first, even your fins. And then if you need to, we're kind of showing you if they're still coming after that, where to put your hand in the placement. But for most sharks, they'll turn right off as soon as you stick a fin out. And sometimes the tigers will too. But we have seen them many times just kind of like come right through. So yeah. And I've had people like reach out to me and be like, wow, your videos kind of like gave me confidence or taught me what to do. If I see a shark, and one girl actually had a tiger approach her. Luckily, she didn't need to redirect it, but at least she felt confident and like knowing what to do if she needed
Yeah.
to. Um, but yeah, most of the time I would say, use your fins, use an object. There just are times where people are in the water and don't have that. Um, and so that's like next level of what to do. But I've had them approach me just, we can only speculate exactly why they're doing anything. It's very hard to definitively say, this is why the shark did this.
For sure. Yeah.
A lot of times, like curiosity, competition with other sharks. One shark approaches us. It's common to see another one do the same thing right after, kind of like, oh, what were they checking out, you know? Um, and sometimes even aggression. I've had some come up and start kind of chomping and doing things like that. And, you know, you just hold on and do what you got to do.
So that's just intimidation, right? Because they know that you're not a food source.
I would say that sharks are very good at determining that we're not food, but obviously bites do happen. Um,
Just
most
want
of
a
the
little
time,
taste.
you know, like most of the time, you just get that one exploratory bite and then they realize you're not food and they take off. Unfortunately, that can be really large sharks and the damage is already there and already done. Um, there are times where a human could be fully consumed by a shark. The thing is, we don't know what's going on with that animal that may have caused that. They could be desperate. They could be like extremely, you know, thin and very hungry. There's many different factors. So I try to keep it real and be like, hey, sharks aren't, you know, they're not man-eating monsters or else my job wouldn't exist. And I hope I can show that. But they're not little puppy dogs either. And stuff can definitely happen. Like they're predators. They're
For sure, yeah.
meant to do stuff like this. So
Yeah. Have you had the same kind of experience with the other animals in the ocean, with the whales or turtles, where you find kind of this connection and spend so much time with them? Was that very specific to sharks anyway, in what you're doing? Because I know you also take people to see whales and stuff like that, but much larger animals, so maybe different interaction.
yeah, for sure. I've had some, I mean, I'm very lucky to have had some amazing experiences. I tend to spend a lot of my time with sharks, so I have like the most experience with them. But I also run whale trips where we'll go places in the South Pacific to see humpback whales. And this last year in 2022, we had this amazing whale, and I've had it happen a couple other times, but they're coming up to play with you and pursue you. And yeah, it's a really amazing experience. They're like so sweet. And then I, you know, at a time had a sperm whale mom bring her calf over and like show me the baby and different things like that. So yeah, those moments definitely happen. We had like bottlenose dolphins just stop and sit right in front of us and stall out. I would say like the the moments where an animal is really trying to connect with you happens more with cetaceans, meaning dolphins or whales. There's like again that next level of intelligence there. um, yeah, so definitely possible. Comes with spending
Yeah,
more time in the water.
yeah. What time? How much time do you spend, you think, every year in the water? Did you ever try to figure that out? Hundreds,
It's
obviously, hundreds of hours.
yeah, I mean it's like my 9 to 5, you know.
Yeah,
So I'll work about 5 days on the boat and spend about 5 hours a day. So yeah,
yeah,
it was
adds up.
actually more when I was working with the sharks on the North Shore, 'cause we would work really long days, like 12-hour days. So kind of varies, weather, things like that, but as much time as I can.
Yeah. How would you say living in Hawaii and being in the ocean so much, and also being in close proximity with the sharks, uh, would you say that has had an effect on your perception of the world, both mentally and physically, just spending that much time with apex predators?
Yeah, I think each different animal has something to teach you. And with sharks, they have definitely increased my confidence and like confidence in myself and my strength and power and like that kind of side of me. But then also taught me humility at the same time because, like I said, they are wild animals. So you always need to stay humble to the fact that you're in their environment and they have more power and control over the situation than you. So, yeah, really cool life lessons from sharks for sure.
Yeah. And can you describe the mix between, I would say, the necessary, we're talking about adrenaline and you being kind of an adrenaline junkie, and you've described being with the sharks as calm and bringing peacefulness. What is the exact mix of those both things when you're in the water?
I think it's interesting because it is sort of a mix. When you get in the water with sharks, you're just like hyper aware and like fully focused because you take it seriously and you're making sure that everything is safe and you know where all the sharks are and you're watching the behavior and it's just constant like awareness. But at the same time, as intense as that might feel, it's also sort of peaceful because your mind is there in the present moment and it's not like on all the emails that you have to get back
Yeah,
to and
it's a flow state.
responsibilities. Yeah,
It's a,
so that's where that balance comes in.
yeah, yeah. It's probably just like the flow state that writers have or musicians where time can just pass by without you noticing because you're so focused on the present. So yeah, it's probably part of also like a meditation in some respects. Hmm.
It totally is. Yeah. And free diving and being in the ocean, snorkeling, it's like you're so connected with your breath in that moment as well. So that's adding another element. And I think this is like a sensation that people get doing all sorts of different things, whether you're, a surgeon in the operating room or a football player on the field. It's like, it's an intense situation, but you're still just like there in the moment and focused. And it's sort of like your place to be in like a meditative state almost.
Yeah. What's your experience with free diving? Is that something you also practice daily? And I guess it's a different experience of being in the water from just, just being snorkeling.
For sure. Yeah. On our tours, we do what I like to call like light free diving, where if there's a manta down there at 30, 40 feet, yeah, we'll go down and kind of check it out, dive through bait balls and things that might be sitting a little bit deeper in the water. For us, most of our wildlife encounters are at the surface, so not a whole lot of reason to dive down. But on occasion, I do like to go out and actually practice, dedicate that time to actual free diving where we'll bring a line out with a buoy and
Hmm.
pull
Yeah.
ourselves down. And you're really getting into that meditative state then when you're, really focusing on your breathing, really relaxing, trying to lower your heart rate and just pull yourself down, kind of ignore the urges to breathe. And yeah, so it's fun and interesting. I'm basically stuck at like 115 feet right now. I'm okay with that depth. Like maybe I want to get to 150 one day in my life, but I have a problem like equalizing beyond that. But yeah, once you're down there at 100 feet, it's interesting because like you just kind of feel like the weight of the ocean and it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the pressure. And can you still see the surface?
Yeah, actually, when you're freediving, you really want to keep your body perfectly straight. So you would actually only be looking at the line in front of you and not
Oh,
looking
okay, got it.
up. But you could, if you looked up, you can definitely see the surface. And
Yeah,
it's still like there's still light there. So
yeah. So every year, tens of millions of sharks are killed by humans. The reasons are well known. There's shark fin soup. There's also, I didn't know this, but I found it researching and distilling squalene from sharks' livers. It's a substance going into face creams and to sunscreen also. And also fishing and also byproduct of fishing with some of the biggest shark fishing countries being Spain, Portugal, France too. So can you give us a little background on sharks and the role of sharks in the ecosystem as peak predators, and also what would happen if sharks disappeared entirely or if their population started to dip at increasing levels?
yeah, so sharks are being killed at this extreme rate. The estimate, like you said, is around 100 million every single year. And a really big problem with that too is that sharks have really slow reproductive rates. So it's really hard for them to keep up with this rate that they're being killed. And they have such an important role in the ecosystem. They're referred to as keystone species, which just means that if that is removed, then it can really affect the entire ecosystem. People often don't realize that predators at the top play a very important role in many ecosystems on land and the ocean and all of that. Um, and when we remove them, the thought, if you're educated about it, will be, oh, well, then there will be like more fish and that will be great. But
Well,
that's
just go down a
actually,
notch. Yeah.
yeah, it's not how it works. There's actually a trophic cascade that happens where things start to collapse below. So one of the things that sharks do, you'll often hear them be referred to as the doctors of the ocean, because if there's any, injured, sick, dead, dying, old, like easy prey, because there's a problem with that prey, that's what they're going to target. They're often not targeting the more difficult.
That's not what doctors do.
Well, they remove the disease
No,
out
I
of
see.
the
Oh, okay.
ecosystem. So, yes, but good point. But yeah, so they remove that disease by targeting that easy prey, and leaving the strong to survive and reproduce, which has a really good effect on the fish stock populations. Also, the types of fish that they're hunting, they could be hunting other larger fish species that are, affecting all of the levels below. And if that overpopulates, then they're going to feed too much on the next level down fish. And then that's going to start to have an effect on the corals, because the herbivore fish are not going to be able to remove algae in the area, giving corals room to grow and expand. So it really all is a full cycle, and each link of that food web plays an important role, and that does include what's at the top just as much as it does what's on the bottom. And coral reefs, they're directly affected by sharks, so many reasons, even like so many more than I can even begin to explain. And they're a carbon sink and play such a huge role in helping us with climate change. So we should be focusing a lot of our energy on preserving the ocean and implementing more marine protected areas where there's no fishing allowed and things, so we can allow that ecosystem to flourish.
Yeah, for sure. Are there many zones around the globe where fishing, like shark fishing, obviously is not permitted? But then I guess there's the problem of implementing these laws, obviously, because you don't know what's going on these boats. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big problem.
Yeah, one example of a great example of a spot that is protected is French Polynesia. They are the largest shark sanctuary in the world, but still there are things that go on that, and just same as here in Hawaii, there are things that go on that, are not monitored as well as they should be, as well as, as soon as you go out of that boundary line, you could do all the fishing you want right on the other side of that boundary line, and you're still impacting that area that's protected just because you're right outside of it. So it's tricky.
It's tricky. Yeah. So for anyone who wants to learn more about sharks or just the ocean in general, can you recommend any resources, be it books or documentaries? Any documentary that really stuck with you?
I really like Shark Water. Uh, Rob Stewart, he was a really amazing shark conservationist, and he did a series of films that were some of my favorite. Racing Extinction is a great one. I believe that one touches a little bit more on changing our diets as well. But there's so many documentaries out there these days, and
Yeah.
all of them have something really amazing to offer, and it might hit somebody different depending on what they watch. So yeah, just get out there and watch them.
Yes. And don't be afraid of the shark movies. They're fun too.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So what do you have planned for next year? Are you expanding at Kaimana? Do you have new projects in the books?
I'm really hoping to take more people on trips all around the world. We'll still be doing our trips here in Hawaii, but also getting to go to more places to explore and take people for that, firsthand experience. So I have some fun trips lined up. We typically go for sharks, also whales. So keep an eye out for that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was really, really interesting, and I hope people get something out of it. Don't be afraid of sharks, but always with a professional. Obviously, don't do this at home. So thank you very much for taking the time, Kayleigh. It's been great. Once again, people can find you on Instagram at mermaid.kayleigh and on TikTok at mermaid.kayleigh. We see the reference to the Little Mermaid still here.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, if you would like to hear more, don't forget to like, subscribe, spread the word, and you can find everything about this podcast and my activities as a writer on my website, hamilljonathan.com. Thanks, Kayleigh. Thank you everyone, and
Yeah.
see you soon on the Creators Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.